As writers, our pens are our weapons. This is how we bring Jewish joy into people's homes. It's through stories.
We have a long fight ahead of us.
Here I am.
Here I am.
Here I am.
And here I am with Shai Davidai.
All right. We're starting off on a good note.
All right,
My guest today is a TV writer, producer, founder of Edit, and vice chair of Jewish Writers Committee of the Writers Guild.
Yes, of America.
Of America.
West. A lot of words.
And here, we're going to get through this. Here I am with Leslie Schapira.
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
Shai.
Hey, Leslie. So before, we're going to get to a lot of things, but this is on my mind and should be on everyone's mind. Why are you pronouncing it Schapira and not Shapira?
That's an excellent question. My mom liked to joke that my dad is from South Texas, and so it was probably Shapira, but then with the Texas accent, it became Shapira. So that's our best answer. But as I told you, if I ever make Aliyah to Israel, it will become Shapira, and I will drop the C.
What's going to get you to make Aliyah to Israel?
Depending on who becomes president next. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
No, you're allowed to say anything. I was hoping you'd mention the fact that you're single and looking. So if anyone
Good point.
watching this on YouTube, you can come in and see who Leslie Schapira is. All right. So Leslie, we're going to start with the first question. Leslie Schapira, what kind of a Jew are you?
All right. So I've been studying and thinking a lot about this. I am a proud, secular, Zionistic Jew.
Okay, so since you've been studying, I have to grill you on this.
Oh, God.
Why did you choose proud, secular, and Zionist?
So proud, I would say my parents, while not religious, really instilled in us a very strong sense of Jewish identity and the importance of Israel, which I guess plays more of a part in the Zionistic component. But they always made sure that we knew that we are Jews, we need to stand up and be counted, and that was really core to who we were, both individually and as a family.
How do they do that? A lot of parents would want to achieve this goal, but not a lot of parents achieve that goal when their kids are in their 30s.
That's a very good point. I'm not sure exactly how they did it. I think it was just talking about it a lot. We always celebrated the holidays at home. We had to go to Hebrew school till we were 16, even past our bar mitzvahs. We had to stay through confirmation. My brother tends to joke that there are 3 rules in our house, at least for him. No motorcycles, no tattoos, no shiksas.
Are you trying to get me canceled? That's the question of the. Okay.
I just can't wait till my family watches this and said, "What did you say on that podcast?" But no, I mean, it was always just a very, very big part of our lives, and we always understood that that was something we could never escape. You know, no matter where we went, we were Jews, that we are Jews before we're anything else. My parents have taught us that we are Jews before we're Americans. Like, that is something that will always follow us. And then when they want to get darker, they said, if, you don't want to remember, Hitler will. So.
Well, it's effective. I mean, it's true that the truth underneath, if you don't want to remember Hitler will, is, kind of taken to the extreme, but the idea that for the non-Jews, you will always be a Jew.
Exactly.
So it's up to you to see if you remember that you were Jewish or not, because they will remember.
It's so true. So now it's just incumbent upon us to do what we can to support the Jewish community and our people and remember our history and tradition.
So this is how you grew up. Mm-hmm. A lot of American Jewish kids grow up in similar households, but then something happens. They go to college and they start losing the thread of the proud, secular, Zionist Jew that you describe yourself to be. How did you keep it going?
So I will say there were 2 factors in my life growing up that I think sort of played a part in why I became such an activist and why this is such a passion and a focus for me. One is obviously the values my parents, instilled in us early on. And another factor, I think, I went to a very progressive high school. And granted, this is before the word woke was part of our everyday vocabulary, but it was very far left.
Where was this?
This was in Santa Monica. It was a very industry heavy group. It started off being based on very good values. It's all about individualism and self-expressionism, giving back to the community. But of course, these things get perverted. And what we saw was really a microcosm of what we're seeing now on college campuses. And even though Israel was not front and center of the conversation back when I was in high school, it has certainly become part of that movement as, the years have gone by. And so I think for me, it was just, I really wanted to cement myself in the values that I knew were right and were true, which is really what I was brought up with, and be so different from the people that I went to high school with. And that really carried me through college. As I sort of left high school, I really dug in my heels with, the sense of Jewish values and trying to understand myself as a Jew and as someone who, in fact, wanted to pursue my own route. I will say, when I went to college, I was part of a little Jewish group called Sigma AE Pi, Sisters of AE Pi. Okay. No, not AE Phi. I wasn't that cool that I was part of a real sorority. This is not quite a fake sorority, but there are 50 chapters across the United States. At least there were back then.
All fraternities and sororities are fake.
Fair enough. We didn't have a house. We just met up in a classroom on campus. This was at UCLA. But it was a very nice group of girls. And, just coming into a new school and, being a freshman, there's so many things that are going on. Having a very humble and Hamish group that, took me in, that, had, again, just similar values, which is be a good person, care about your heritage, study hard, work hard. That was sort of my friend group that I think once again, reiterated how comfortable I was in that community.
But you've mentioned, what informs your activism.
Yes.
What was your first act of Jewish activism?
What was my first act? I was always very involved with Jewish philanthropy. Right away, whether it was community service that we had to do for religious school or even high school, I was, part of Jewish Federation from a very early on, doing trips with them, volunteering with them. So anything that I did in terms of community service was Jewish focused.
But then something happens around 2021.
Yes, something happens around 2021.
What happened?
So the Gaza violence broke out. And it was interesting because we started to see some of the anti-Semitism, of course, masked as anti-Zionism, come to the surface.
And this is in 2021, not 2023. This is May 2021. It was
Correct.
A 10-day cycle of violence between Hamas and Israel.
In Israel, yes. And of course, Israel was attacked. And of course, as we saw in our progressive circles, Israel is, of course, blamed. And
were you surprised?
No. In fact, it's one of those things where it's like you're just ready to watch it happen. In a way, and we'll get to this in a moment, I suppose, but when October 7th happened, there were so many people who were so surprised by the silence in our industry and in our city. And I say our city, I live in LA mostly. And for me, again, because of where I went to high school, it's just par for the course. In fact, there's a little part of me that was relieved that other people were seeing it too.
Why relieved?
You could have an honest conversation about what was happening. There's none of this. There's so many people that wanted to ignore that anti-Semitism was still alive in our society. that so much anti-Israel sentiment would ultimately be at the root of so much of the hate that we would face. It just wasn't something that people were talking about or paying attention to. And so in 21, some of the anti-Semitism was starting to come out from under the rug, but it wasn't the tsunami that we saw on October 8th. I wouldn't say that it was subtle, but it was just enough to make people uncomfortable, but not enough to activate the community the way that it would 2 years later. And so,
but it did activate you.
It did. I mean, again, I was always someone that was very, very involved in Jewish community. Again, whether it was in philanthropy, whether it was part of my social group, it was always a very big part of my life. But it was in 21 that I decided that I wanted to try to take more of a leadership position in, creating a community and having honest conversation that wasn't being had.
So what'd you do? And I mean, it's so interesting because I know the answer. Yeah. I'm trying to lead you there,
yes,
and
I
hope I'm making you feel comfortable because you said this is your
are.
first podcast.
It is my first podcast.
So relax.
Thank you. Well,
which always works when people tell you to relax, but you do.
Actually, when you tell me to relax, it does kind of work. Sorry, I hope I'm not rambling.
No, not at all. But so it's 2021.
Yes.
You for the first time are seeing it on a national scale, the anti-Semitism. People are starting to pay attention, not as much as now, but already starting to notice things. You say, I'm going to take a leadership position. I am done just, helping where I can. I want to help in a bigger way. So what did you end up doing?
So I started a dinner series, but this started with one dinner where I wanted, I'll just back up for one moment. So what was happening, especially with Jews in the entertainment industry, is because they were uncomfortable with this talk, with this anti-Israel rhetoric that was being propagated on social and mainstream media, and talk of it within their companies or writers' rooms or wherever they may be. You found, especially pro-Israel Jews, retreating into their corners. They weren't coming together. They weren't wanting to make a difference. They were hiding and they were scared. And I understand because we are in an industry where you make one wrong move and that can be the end, right? We are in a very, very tenuous business. So, or should I say, we all have very tenuous careers in this business. And so this frustrated me because first and foremost, there were more of us than we realized. We are not alone. There are Jews in Hollywood who do care, but I think I felt a big step forward would be having them understand that we are not alone and that we have one another to rely on. And so I had my first dinner in November of 21, and I wanted to force a conversation.
Wait, before you get to the dinner.
Yeah.
So that's the problem that you've kind of noticed, right?
Yes.
The anti-Semitism from the outside and the retreating into hiding of the Jews, the pro-Israel Jews from the inside. Why go to a dinner? There's many, many ways. How did you decide if I'm going to bring people together in a dinner?
Okay. I hope this isn't a boring answer, but I'll get into it. I knew dinners were effective. I had been part of another Jewish organization that would have these very elevated, curated, high-powered dinners. And it was a different conversation at that point. It was more sort of general Jewish community building. And ultimately, that dinner series fell apart. But I found that young people who were not normally interested in going to Jewish events were really excited by that setting. And they left those dinners, I like to say, by drinking the Kool-Aid. They wanted to come back. They wanted to continue being part of that conversation. And that was amazing to see. I mean, at this time, it was millennials who were in their late 20s, early 30s, being excited by a Jewish event was a big deal. So I thought I want to do a dinner like that, where we do a round robin, where, I asked people for my first dinner to dress up. I wanted it to be cocktail attire because I feel when people dress better, they act better. I think
I'm so glad you dropped that, because I would have never come if.
I don't know, Shai. I think I could have gotten you there anyway. There's actually something in the Torah about that too. Like, when you dress the part, you act the part. But, you wanted people to really come bringing their best foot forward and really being prepared to be part of something special. So unlike the prior dinners I went to, I wanted this to be really focused. And the topic of conversation I wanted people to be thinking about is, how do we take a stand for Israel and the Jewish people? And how do we edit, the name of the organization, the false narrative that we are seeing?
Who was in that first dinner, if you're allowed to say?
Sure. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, I did not study for that part. We had a lot of agents. We had writers. We had some influencers, comedians.
Who's who of Jewish LA? So what happened in this dinner? This very first dinner, people are talking about how can we help Israel and the Jewish people.
Yes.
But it's just a dinner.
Right, it's just a dinner. And honestly, unfortunately, we're not going to answer that major question of what are we going to do to solve this problem. That is not something that can actually be solved by one meal. But I did sort of discover something through going through this process, which is what we can do is find ways that we can support each other. And that is something very concrete and actionable that can come out of these evenings, especially because we are often so siloed and not speaking to one another. This is an opportunity for people to talk about how they can actually help their neighbor. And even if they can't be vocal at work or on social media or with their friends, they might be able to do something quietly but meaningfully to help the person next to them. So, for example, we might have someone, as we saw at our last dinner, who is writing a book about Israel or something that happened in Israel's history. And that author might have a hard time getting a PR firm or a literary agent because people are so scared to take on this kind of material. But by coming to a dinner and you talk about that those are your needs as you try to make a difference or have some impact, someone at the dinner might say, I can help you with that, or I know someone who can help you with that. And that is the power of engaging in that way at these dinners. And so, as you know, the question at the table, as we do a round robin, we say, introduce yourself. What is your name? What do you do? What do you need? And how can you help in your Jewish activism? And so that really allows people to get to know one another. And we too become vulnerable because you're asking people for help. We are all in this together. We are all struggling in our own ways. And I hope that A, creates a bond, but B, really allows each person to really embolden and bolster the efforts of the people that they meet. One of the biggest compliments I got is from another rabbi who attended a dinner. He said, my favorite part about these dinners is that it's not a dick measuring contest. People are really leaving their egos at the door. And I found that to be such a beautiful sentiment.
I find the fact that a rabbi says this,
yes.
It's
But it's true. Especially in LA and in this industry, for people to just let their guard down and say, this is where I'm struggling and I could use someone's help here is, I think, a rare opportunity. And so I hope we're able to sort of fill that void in a way that maybe other organizations haven't been able to tap into.
So, but I want to go back to that very first dinner because so we get to what you're doing now. You finished the dinner. Do you remember where it was, the first dinner?
Yeah, I was at my parents' house.
At your parents' house.
Wait, by the way, before I forget, just to speak to the temperature of that time, We had a lot of people who wouldn't go to that dinner because they did not want to be seen at a pro-Israel event. And despite the fact
that it's a private event
in a backyard, no cameras. I mean, we took a few, little snapshots and we cleared it with everyone before posting them. And again, on private accounts mostly. Off the record, people did not want to be seen at any dinner that was associated with any sort of pro-Israel sentiment.
What's the fear? Did they give you any explanation?
That they would be somewhat of a pariah in their workplace or in their social groups. They don't articulate that, but that's at the core of the issue.
And the irony is that now people are asking you to join the dinners. But we'll get to this. So I wanted to say you go home, but you're at your parents' house. Everybody leaves. Hopefully you help cleaning the dishes and all that.
I did.
How did you feel?
I mean, I feel like I felt right now just full of anxiety.
Anxiety? After the event?
After the dinner, yeah, no, yes. I mean, I'm full of anxiety that, you always have that rush of adrenaline and you think, did it go okay? Did people have a good time? But to answer your question more head on, I felt very proud of the dinner. I felt very happy that I think it went well. And what I was most pleased about was the fact that people were in fact connecting and able to say, oh, you have this problem? Let me help you with that. I got you. That was amazing. And that to me was a signal of, oh, that's what we should really be honing in on, is what each person can do for the other.
So what was the next step from one dinner to creating a series?
Well, part of it was funding, but we did get some funding we got funding for the first dinner, then we got funding for a series of 5 dinners to just play with it and see how it went.
Can you elaborate a little bit, just because there might be people, listening in from wherever in the world, and they're like, this is a great idea. I want to do something like this. I mean, you're not a Joe Schmo, but you still like going somewhere and saying, I want money for dinner is not the best pitch.
Yeah.
How did you get funding for something like this?
I was involved with a foundation that was really interested in helping what they saw as startup organizations and really trying to do what they could do to support their young leaders who wanted to take on their own initiatives. But I will say, I do think that they trusted me because I was someone who'd been involved with the Jewish community for so long. This started back when I was a kid. I've always been involved in Jewish organizations and even that dinner series, which led me to this foundation, which did a retreat where I met other people that were doing, some interesting work. And so all of these things build on each other and you build relationships. That's the main thing. I mean, and again, actually, it speaks to what the dinners are really about, is creating relationships so that we can each be there to empower one another. But the foundation knew me because of my years of work in the community and again, going to their retreats and interacting with them. They also wanted a bigger presence in LA. And so that's how that came to pass. And I will say, too, I think there's an element of B'Sheret. I think it was, the right place, the right time for all of that to come up.
So you got funding for 5 dinners.
Yes.
How many dinners have you done so far?
I haven't counted, I will say, but I think over 20.
Over 20.
Yes.
And these have been in LA, New York City?
And New York, yeah.
Any plans forever?
I brought on a wonderful young woman to join our team, Lauren, and she is insisting that we do a Miami dinner. So that is something that we're playing with, and hopefully we'll try Miami soon. I know they have a very strong Jewish community, and I think that there is a hunger to do one in that city. So that would be interesting.
So 20 dinners over a 4-year period.
Yeah.
That's about, one every 2 months.
Yeah.
What have been some of your most memorable moments of those dinners?
Every time someone says, this is what I'm dealing with, and someone across the table goes, I can help you with that. That has been, to me, just a mind-blowing moment. Actually, today, we started this new edit site. We have this private member login where you can look at past events and we list, people's needs and also resources that they're willing to offer the community. Because we're trying to start this concierge service between the dinners to continue the conversations and connections. Again, is because we can't do the dinners as frequently as we'd like. We try for once a month, but we want to keep the momentum in between them. Someone was looking at the prior guests and what they were looking for and said, can I meet this person? I think I have an answer to what they want. And to me, that's everything. We had someone at a dinner recently who is a writer. She just wrote a play, her first play, that is about antisemitism in the industry over the last few decades and all the different ways it's manifested. So very Jewish play, but it's also very funny and very fun. And she is looking for a producer. And on one of our dinners, someone said, my cousins are big Broadway producers. Let me put you in touch. And we did. So that's, someone says, we're matchmakers for Jewish activists. And in a lot of ways, I do think that we can be described as that, just trying to make matches and connections wherever possible. So whenever I get that moment of one person is ready to step up and help their neighbor and we can make that, that match, it's a win.
And so I've been to two of these dinners. Yeah. I should say, probably because Ilana, our associate producer, is a dear friend of yours, and she brought me and Yorden in. They've been incredible. I've met so many incredible and interesting people, and I should say not just people in the entertainment industry, people in business, artists, whatever, everyone. But in both dinners, I had this moment.
Okay.
And I wonder if you've had this thought where I almost feel myself leaving the room for a second and looking around and saying, if an anti-Semite was in this room, this would be their nightmare. This is like the elders of Zion sitting around a fancy dinner talking about, how we can each help each other achieve our Jewish activist goals.
Yeah.
Is that a fair depiction?
Absolutely. I think it's great. I want to put that on the website.
but because we're always in a way, because we're always, as Jews, we're always on the one hand worried that people will say, that we're organizing, that we were ruling Hollywood, that we're ruling the banks, or we're ruling, everything. But on the other hand, if we don't help each other, then and no one's going to help us.
So true.
So how do you personally navigate that space of helping other Jews without being blamed as being, too insular, too particular, too conniving, to use the anti-Semites language?
Right. I'd be very honored to be called all of those things. No, look, I will say again, I was joking earlier, this is my first podcast, I was a podcast virgin. Our work has been very private and, off the record. And again, like the dinners are, you will not hear the intimate conversation that happens anywhere. But I know how to tend to my part of the garden, which is what can we do to come together and help each other? And you're right. It's like if we don't help each other, no one is going to help us. I'm not going to have the answers for everything. I don't know how to broaden the conversation to people who are on the fence. I've actually tried that formula where to have a little bit more of a mixed crowd. It was not productive. We spent too much time fighting and not fighting, but I would say having a debate that went in circles and not enough time spending on how can we have a focused and intentional conversation about what we can do to move the needle forward. And so, I don't think that everything needs to answer all things. I mean, I'm a television writer. We're sort of trained to know who your audience is and find that one story. Every episode in a television show, you have one, like in a good story, the character has one goal that they're focused on. I think the more particular we are, the more effective we will be.
When you sit around and thinking, okay, I'm going to plan the next dinner.
Yeah.
How do you choose who to invite?
It's a very good question. It depends on where we are. Obviously the city, the restaurant, sometimes, especially in LA, we do them at people's homes. So that will sort of create an automatic environment. Is the person hosting an actor? Is the person hosting more on the tech side? So I'll start to think, okay, who might be a good fit, not just for this place, but also, I really want to make sure that there are individuals who will connect with one another and will be in positions to answer each other's requests. And sometimes it's people's availability, but yeah, so I also try to work with, especially if I'm doing it at someone's home, work with the host and ask them, who do you want to invite to this table that you think would be additive to the conversation? And that's how we get newcomers and, people that I may not have necessarily known before. And it definitely helps us broaden our circles.
And what have you learned? What have you learned about what are the needs of the people that have come to the dinners, but also what are the abilities that people, the skills that people have to give, to donate?
First of all, everyone has needs. So that's a really important thing to know, is that you go to the dinner and yes, a lot of people have very impressive jobs and resumes. Everyone has a void to fill. Everyone needs something to make their work and their efforts that much stronger. And those needs really vary. But it's interesting, even people that are top of the food chain career-wise are looking for help. And these dinners give them an opportunity to articulate that, because so many times they might go to a Jewish event where they're being talked at or they're giving a broad speech, but they don't often have the opportunity to sit in this intimate setting and say, this is what I'm working on, but this is what we're still struggling with or trying to work through, or I'm building this new nonprofit or this company, and I really want someone who is focused on XYZ. So I think one of the things that I've learned is that everyone needs help somewhere and somehow. And in terms of what people can give, it's like we're so used to thinking, people, especially with nonprofits, people give money. But as you know from our dinners, we don't ask for money. We are just asking for people to give their time, to think about other connections they might have that might be helpful. Areas of expertise have been really useful. Sometimes that's legal. Sometimes that's somebody who is in tech who can really help someone who's having issues on social media. Sometimes it's, again, being heading a PR firm or being an agent. Like all of these things that people do in their everyday lives can be so useful to us as activists. And I think sometimes it's having these conversations that allows people to start thinking about how they can mix their professional and activist lives to benefit one another.
I think sometimes in the dinner that I recently attended, the thing that affected me the most was not so much something that people asked or that people gave, but just new ideas and new problems that I guess I never occurred to me and didn't think about.
Like what?
So in this previous dinner, we had people that actually were guests on this podcast before, Nitzan Mintz and Dede Bende, two Israeli artists. And, and I think Nitzan stood up and said, even if you can't help or anything, buy young Israeli artists stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody has their, like the old Judaica and from her grandma's house. Maybe they have a Kadishman, they have, or if you're reading books, you have the Amos Oz, like really, really good stuff. David Grossman, those are the famous ones.
Yeah.
But if we want to make sure that we're going to be famous Israeli artists 30 years from now, we have to support them now and very young. And I thought that was a very brilliant idea, because if you're already buying art, buying a book, buying music, whatever it is, don't just go to the big names. Like, everyone wants to go to MSG and see Omer Adam, and that's great. But there are struggling Israeli and Jewish musicians in the US who need your attendance. So I thought that was a very, small thing, but really, really affected how I think about things.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'll say, even the fact that you're now sharing it on this podcast is a win for us. That's a ripple effect that has happened from having those conversations. That was an idea that you now took in and shared with your audience. And maybe someone out there will start to think, what can I do to help answer that need? Let me go buy some art from young struggling Israeli artists, or, do whatever I can do to support the arts in Israel in all of its different forms.
And where are you taking Edit next?
That's a very good question. I think our next dinner will be in LA.
Yes. No, I mean more
sorry.
in like how, in terms of
in terms of how we're broadening
scope and
So we actually just made a big leap in growing Edit. I joke that it's Edit 2.0. We just started this new site, a member login for people who have attended dinners. And we are really trying to focus on this concierge service, like I mentioned, so that if we're in between dinners and you have a need, or you have something that you want to offer the community, you can come to us and we will do what we can to either answer that or connect you with somebody who is in search of, the help that you're offering, or that can help answer your request.
And what if someone's watching or listening in and wants to maybe join an Edit dinner, apply for an Edit dinner? Is there a mechanism? Are you planning a mechanism in the future?
You can email us at hello@editcommunity.org. But I will say, look, it's one tricky thing that we have to navigate is sort of this paradox of, we are a Jewish organization, so in spirit we are inclusive. Also, these are very curated events where we need to make sure that every person at the dinner has something to contribute, both to the conversation and to another and to each other.
Also, the bigger thing you're curating is an environment where people feel safe and comfortable to speak their minds.
Yes.
Which is not an easy thing to do.
That's true, for sure. But I never want to feel like we have someone at the dinner who seems like they are just needing help but not able to give back. And that, again, can mean many different things. But that's why we're so selective with the candidates who participate, because it's a high bar. It's very tricky to find those people that can really move the needle and can, really assist in other people's work and initiatives, as we move forward. I hope that doesn't sound obnoxious, but that's,
no, we have the people with the pitchforks waiting.
Of course.
I think everything moves the needle. I think even if people can't or do not attend an Edit dinner, they can adapt your ideas to creating their own dinners, curating it. It doesn't have to be broad entertainment, high rollers. It could be local activists. And what do you have to offer, and what do you need in return?
Absolutely. Now that you say that, I'm thinking it would be so great if people could sort of start their own Edit dinners. Just have a table full of people that you think would be part of this conversation and find ways to really make those connections. It's funny you asked me what's next. And what I'm about to say is not what's next, because this is sort of my, dream scenario, but I will share it.
And we might be able to help.
There you go. You never know. All right. So I feel like one of the biggest pain points in the Jewish diaspora is that we are quite uncoordinated and disorganized. I feel like no one knows what anyone is doing. And it really leads to a lot of inefficiency and redundancy and wasted resources. And part of it is ego. Everyone wants to sort of be the leader of their own endeavor. But I also think we just don't know about all the projects that are happening. We don't know who our teammates are. And so what I try to do with these dinners and what I would love to do on a greater scale is just create more connective tissue so that we can, again, if you're doing, let's just say a documentary about October 7th, sorry, that's so broad, but just as an example, and you find out somebody else is also doing that same documentary with a similar focus. I mean, rather than maybe having two separate docs, maybe there's a way for people to come together and create one piece, where they can really combine resources, combine money, really aggregate the best possible talent to make one magnificent film rather than having, smaller projects here and there that did not get the right funding and backing that it needed to really excel.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. I want to take off the edit hat for a second and put on your writer, your TV writer hat.
If this is awkward.
So you went to college, then you got an MBA, and then in the middle of your MBA, you're like, I'm going to pitch a pilot to a TV show, and you somehow get it, and you become a TV writer.
Well, I love that version of it.
I mean, I as someone who used to teach MBAs, I don't remember ever having someone saying, I'm going to graduate and then go write for TV.
Well, first of all, I wish you were my professor.
I wish you were my student. So
I would have driven you crazy. So can I just edit a couple pieces of that? And I appreciate that you did your homework on me. That was really fun. I will say I graduated from college. I actually spent some time trying to follow my dreams as a television writer. Like many dumb college students, I assumed once I graduate, it would just happen. Because, right? Like your whole life, you're like, I work hard, I make good grades, that's how it works. So I should just graduate and automatically get the job of my dreams or sell my television show. And sure enough, like many people in their 20s, there were a lot of false starts. There were a lot of, I had little things come up. I did sell a pilot. I spent a year in the 2.5 Men writer's room. I did some work for the National Lampoon radio show, but ultimately I really wasn't having that first real break. And so I went to business school, not because I wanted to change careers, but because I had the time, and there's a lot of hurry up and wait in this industry, and I wanted to broaden my horizons and learn something new. I felt that I had rushed through college. I took a bunch of really shallow courses, and I thought I probably should learn something about the world, and maybe if I were in an MBA program, I'll learn how to pay my taxes. I tend to joke. I don't know that I learned anything in college. I don't know that I learned anything at the MBA program, but I wrote a script about it, which is that business school is like high school for 30-year-olds. And I don't know if that was your experience, but it was really funny to me seeing these adults be in a classroom with their backpacks, and you get all these girls being really cliquey, and it's all the same dynamics that existed when we were 16. And so, I wrote a pilot and I sent it to a mentor of mine, and it's funny, it's a very, very polarizing non-PC show. Mm-hmm. It was really out there, but it was fun. And thank God he loved it, and that was great. But he was focused in drama. He didn't want to make it. And so it just sort of sat for a minute. 6 months later, though, he had a show greenlit and staffed me on that. And that was it. So that, thank God, was
that's great.
Way in.
So you achieve your dream, or a dream, writing for TV.
Yes.
But it's not 100% satisfying. There's an issue there, and that's Jewish representation.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a lot of different ways.
What's the issue? Maybe for a lot of people, like, what is the issue of Jewish representation in TV and film?
I would say first and foremost, we're not seeing as many we're not seeing as many Jewish voices in writers' rooms that we used to. And there are a lot of different reasons for that, but it especially now as I become so involved in this space, there really is a paucity of young Jewish writers breaking in. And so that is one piece of it. But then also you look around and there really aren't that many Jewish stories on television.
And relatable and accurate Jewish characters.
Absolutely. In characters who are not stereotypes. I was talking to a young woman, actually, she was at our dinner. She comes from a religious background, and she said she so would have loved seeing someone like her on TV growing up. And that just doesn't exist. You know, you don't get any sort of Jewish story that isn't, you know, some negative slant on the religious community or, again, having the stereotypical neurotic, overbearing Jewish mother.
Or the macho Israeli.
Exactly.
It's the faura shtisel, nobody wants this.
100%.
And
yeah.
Why do you think that's the case? Right? There's a lot of talk about how Jews were so imperative for building Hollywood, for creating this thing. Why have we never told our honest stories? Why do we not see Mizrahi Jews on Netflix dramas? Why do we not see Haredi Jews that are not battling with their beliefs, but are just being? Why do we not see Zionist Jews? Why don't we see an Israeli flag? Like what's going on in the writer's room or producer's room?
I mean, these are questions that speak to my heart that we're always trying to figure out and answer. I mean, it's funny, you said Hollywood is built by Jews, and that is true. But it is also true that Hollywood was built by Jews who wanted to assimilate. And I think that is a mindset that is carried out throughout the years. I mean, if you think about it, so many of the most vociferous opponents in our industry are unfortunately Jewish creatives. And even those...
I wouldn't call them creative. If you chant the same chant in every award, ceremony, you're not creative. You are a good actor or actress, but you're not creative.
Fair enough. Well, I use the term creative to say actor, writer, director, producer, whatever it may be. But there's a lot of discomfort around Judaism in Hollywood. It's really interesting. And I wish I understood why. I mean, I don't know. There's just something that makes people want to shy away from it. And, especially since October 7th, there has been this newfound energy around Jewish representation and Jewish storytelling and the need to tell our story. And I hope that the industry will pay attention and that, we will be able to have these conversations with streamers and with studios and get their buy-in so that they can help us in seeing these shows or movies come to fruition, because I think it's really important that we tell the world who we are. I mean, we say in our committee, our pens are as writers, our pens are our weapons. This is how we normalize Jewry. This is how we bring Jewish joy into people's homes. It's through stories. And I just think there needs to be more openness and acceptance and willpower when it comes to writing, producing, creating Jewish shows.
And what should we as a Jewish audience do when we are faced with TV shows that are stereotypical? Should we accept the crumbs should we say, okay, at least we have Jews on TV? Or should we say, no, we will not platform this, we will not watch this, we will not tell our friends until we feel accurately represented?
I think it depends. It really depends on the show, and I think it depends on the creatives involved. I think so much of it comes down to intention. And I think we have a little bit of trouble in our community. I feel like we are either hand-wringers or finger pointers. We have those in our community who are always tiptoeing and wanting to apologize and equivocate, not really get involved in the conversation. And then we have the other side of our community that finds something wrong with everything. And I feel like there should be a happy medium. Look, whenever you write a story, your characters are going to be imperfect. They're going to be flawed. It's what makes for good television, and good storytelling. So I think that our community has to accept the fact that this is not going to be a perfect human being, nor should it be. But I think we have to look at the larger questions, which is, by and large, is this telling a profound or meaningful or interesting or maybe even funny story about who we are? Is this educating people in some way? I mean, the world really does not understand the Jewish people. They don't know, so many people don't know what a Jew is. They certainly don't know what antisemitism is. If there is a show that is an entree into a little piece of our people that isn't, such a horrible representation, and it's all in all, I mean, we sort of have to look at the net. If the net positive, sorry, let me re-say that. What am I trying to say?
If the net outcome is positive.
If the net outcome is positive.
See, I would have been a good MBA teacher. No,
you would have been a great MBA teacher. Maybe I would have learned something. If the net outcome is positive, then I think we accept it, warts and all, as we do with our family. But I think we have to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater in most circumstances. At the same time, I think we can always look to do better.
What would be...
Does that make sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Some would say it's a diplomatic answer for someone working in the entertainment industry, but some would say, no, this is the correct way to deal with these things. You don't want to go into extreme throw it all away or accept everything. You need to find the medium and try to do better. I think that's the most important thing. What would be a Jewish story or character that you would want to portray, to write for on TV?
Well, I will say I am developing a show right now that I am very proud of and very excited for. And it is about a strong Jewish woman. And that was very important to me. I will say, too, as we formed this committee, I felt like I couldn't be a hypocrite and tell our members, write a Jewish story and not also be somebody that was endeavoring to write, something Jewish. And for me, I felt, there was such a need to show Jewish women in a positive light. I know that was something that, our community was hungering for, especially because they felt so disappointed by what they were seeing on screen. I will say, too, I don't know that I always agree with the criticism that I hear, but I know that was something that was being discussed quite a bit. Where are strong Jewish women? And so I wanted to write a story about somebody who could be both religiously observant and also a total badass, and how those two things can coexist.
I'm imagining a Law and Order East Williamsburg spinoff.
There is that. By the way, there was a show that was similar to that. It was called The Calling on Peacock. No, but I would love to see a great drama about a woman who really kicks ass and also cares about her faith and tradition, and how, you just have to find that balance.
She kicks ass and she keeps Shabbat.
Exactly. That's the tagline. That's the tagline.
All right. Leslie, we're going to end with the Here I Am lightning round. You've done your homework, a series of rapid fire questions. There's no right or wrong answer.
Okay.
It's the first thing that comes to mind.
All right.
Leslie Schapira.
Yes.
What is one thing people don't know about you?
That I have a very dirty sense of humor.
I think that when you said you're losing your podcast virginity, I think they understood that. What is one thing people don't know about the Jews?
that every time we get knocked down, we get back up.
Chumbawamba. What is your favorite curse?
Fuck.
No, but you got to say it like you mean it.
Well, when I say it like I mean it, so I have a phrase that I normally go to, which is a fucking idiot. You will hear me say that about 5 times a day about all sorts of people.
When was the last time you cried?
When the hostages came home.
If you could have any Jewish person over for Shabbat dinner from any moment in history, dead or living, who would that be?
Jesus Christ. I mean, come on. I want to know how he gets people's attention, how he can talk about Israel in a more positive way. I think we have a lot to learn from him.
Hey. What is your
Has anyone ever said that before?
Actually, today was the first time.
Oh,
we
no
recorded
kidding.
we recorded someone just earlier and they said it, but it was the first time.
Damn it. Can you?
That's
Well,
good.
we should meet.
I feel like Jesus Christ should get the recognition. He's not. Yeah.
I mean, he's a Jew living in Israel.
Right. Well, I hear it's Palestine. What is We can cut this off, right? No, I'm joking. What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Rosh Hashanah.
What's your least favorite Jewish holiday?
Passover, because I always want the challah.
When do you feel safest?
When I'm at home or when I'm in a really good writer's room. And I'll say right now I'm on a show that has a particularly healthy, non-toxic, happy, positive room.
What's the show? You want to give it a shout out?
Sure. It's called Creature Commandos on HBO Max. I don't know that they'll want a Zionist writer speaking out,
But that's what they got.
part. Yeah.
When do you feel least safe?
Right now? No, honestly, I get very nervous doing any sort of public speaking, which is why I had so much anxiety about this podcast. And, you know, I'm much more comfortable being a behind the scenes person. And so being on this side of the lens or being on anything that is permanent or, you know, set in stone makes me very uncomfortable, especially in the climate that we're in.
Well, you're doing great.
Oh, I don't know about that.
What gives you hope?
October 8th Jews. We started this conversation by talking about how so many Jews were treated in the wake of the Gaza violence. And I will say a silver lining, obviously, you know, it's hard to find a silver lining in October 7th, but seeing the Jewish community, particularly in Hollywood, wake up and be activated and mobilized in the way that they were was very heartening.
Nice. Finally, every episode, I urge the listeners to donate to one charity if it does good in Israel, the Jewish diaspora, or the world in general. Where do you want people to donate their money to this week?
Are you talking about your nonprofit yet or no?
Well, we don't.
Okay.
Don't push our stuff. Yeah.
All right.
I feel very, very self-aware about asking people for stuff, as you probably have seen in the dinners.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your charities that you.
Can I be selfish?
Of course you can.
There's a little nonprofit called Edit. If you find us on editcommunity.org, we don't ask for money at the dinners, but if you want to help support our cause, we would love anything we can get. Amazing. Well, if you could give yourself from 1 to 10, how'd you do on this podcast? 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. I think I did a 3. No way. Yes, way, for sure. All right, we're going to do something we've never done before in this podcast. There's 4 people in this room. Give me a number.
At least 1?
Yeah.
Fun.
What would you say, 1 through 10?
9.
9?
10.
No way. Really?
We got 1 9 and 4 10s. I'm going to give you a 10.
You would believe me.
All right, Professor, what grade did I get? You did great. I hope that this is obviously one of many podcasts where you can start telling people about the work that you're doing. I hope that you'll see Edit dinners not just keep going, but getting bigger and more frequent, and the Edit community, and that you keep matchmaking activists. Thank you. I hope you keep coming. As long as you invite me, I'll be there. I'll take you up on that. Thank you so much. And thank you, Shai. Here I am with Leslie.
until she makes Aliyah, Shapira.
Yes.